Let's talk about stitch length and stitch width options for your machine. So when you're on a straight stitch, row 1, stitch 1, you have the option to make that stitch longer. So right now it's at 2.5, and if you plus just right below that setting, it will go to a longer stitch length. You can change your stitch length actually while you're sewing. Now it's not going to really show right here that the stitch is getting longer, but it does. Did you also notice that it highlights? So at any given time, if you see that you're on a highlighted number, you know you're not at the default setting. So you can go back until you see a non-highlighted number, then you know you're back to kind of the clear setting. That's one way. We can go all the way down to different settings. I love doing this. Now, let's go to a zigzag. Now your zigzag is actually stitch number 5. Touch OK. So our zigzag, now we have length and we have width. So let's talk width. So if we go ahead and increase it, notice that the stitch is getting bigger, the picture's getting bigger. You'll max out at 7 millimeters, and then our length gets longer too. If you're a very visual person, you will find that this is actual size on your screen. So you are going to get that big of a zigzag if you go ahead and stitch it. Now let's say you've got it all really big and you just want to quickly clear it out. The easiest way to do it is to pick another stitch and come back. You can do that 2 ways. You can go use the arrows up to 6 and come back to 5. Look, everything goes back to a non-highlighted number. The other way to do it would be to go to your stitch menu, reselect stitch 5 and touch OK. That would also clear it out. So again, you can make changes of the width and length while you're sewing, so you can really dial in exactly what you need it to be. But let me highlight something with the stitch length. Notice that this zigzag is a length of 4. And for example, let's just kind of pull up, I'm going to pull up the blind hem stitch, which is 19. And it's going to look like a stitch length of 17.5 millimeters. Now if you look down on the front of your machine where the metric little ruler is, 17 millimeters is quite long, and you're like, gosh, that seems like awful long. Well, what it actually is calculating is that is how long it takes to make one repeat of this stitch. It's going to be 17.5 millimeters long from here to here. Again, actual size. So when we go to our zigzag, back to stitch number 5, and it says 4 millimeters, well, it's 2 millimeters to hop to one side and 2 millimeters to hop to the second side, and then that's one repeat. So this is technically only 2 millimeters apart, but because it's a zig and a zag, you calculate the whole thing. So that's why sometimes when you pick, for example, a decorative stitch, let's go ahead and go to row 4. This will make sense. Let's just pick the little flower number 20. So this flower is 14 millimeters long. You know before you start stitching how long this whole entire stitch length or how long it's going to take to stitch one flower worth. That's how long. If you go ahead and increase it, then you're lengthening out the flower to maybe fit a certain area, or maybe it's too long. You can decrease it and go the opposite way and kind of make it fit into the area you need to fit in. So that is how to look and calculate your stitch length when it looks like it's associated with something more than just a straight stitch. So once again, when you stitch out your decorative stitches, you'll see how they all relate. And 2.5 is a default setting for the woven medium. When we get to the sewing advisor, you'll find that that changes if we had, for example, a lighter weight fabric change. Now the default setting for a straight stitch is a much shorter stitch length for a woven light fabric. So these will change based on what fabric is showing at the top. When you turn your machine off, whatever setting or whatever fabric you were last selected at will be remembered, and then that stitch length will be what comes up. So again, if you're used to 2.5 and you're always noticing, why do I have to make it longer? Just change the woven medium fabric setting, and then it will always come up to be the longer one. If you do a woven heavy, if you sew on heavy fabrics, what do you usually want to do? You want to lengthen your stitch length. That's why the Sewing Advisor takes us up to a 3.0. We'll get into that more as we get into using the exclusive Sewing Advisor. So stitch length, stitch width, available for all stitches, and whatever is highlighted is what you are changing.